Welcome to the We Are All God podcast, where the inner journey is simplified. I'm Erin Werley.
And I'm Philip Werley.
And you are more powerful than you've ever imagined. We're going to talk about divine timing. Because if you can get divine timing, like really get it, and I don't just mean an understanding, I mean an energetic integration of divine timing. Everything flips from feeling stressful and frustrating and like, how in the heck do I make this work? To, I knew this was possible. This is what it's supposed to be like. But the road to divine timing is kind of like the story of the tortoise and the hare. It's how quick are you going to switch from the 3D world programming you grew up in, where you are the hare and you better run, hurry, do, or you're going to get left behind. How quickly do you switch to trust in the divine plan, that it's okay for you to take a deep breath, and be the tortoise? Because we are taught since we are very young that all the rewards come to the people who do, hurry. That the more you do, the more that you take on, the more you're rewarded. But God, Source, the universe did not bring us here for a life of drudgery and misery. That's just not how it works. We came here to have incredible lives, to have lit up lives, to have a purpose that fulfills us while still having a life full of love and time for the things and the people that light us up. So how do we make this switch? The first step to any sort of switch, energetically, mentally, is awareness. Without awareness, we're fucked. Without awareness, our minds running on autopilot all day long, creating for us. So we want to have awareness here. Are we currently creating our life from a vacuum of lack? And that looks like, I know that I want to create this, whatever it is, this future vision that you can feel is true. But I don't know how to get there, so I have to figure it out. All right, awareness, stop, boom. You're coming from lack frequency, if that's what you're saying. I have to figure it out because I don't know how. And it comes from believing that if we're good enough, we'll just do it right now. So, okay, we're also coming from the perspective of, I'm not good enough, I'm not whole. I have to figure out how to be good enough. Then I can figure out how to hold all of this that I see. So if we're going to flip out of lack frequency and out of unworthiness frequency, we're going to flip into abundance frequency and worthiness frequency. But we have to recognize that these frequencies don't look or feel like what we're used to. Now, when something is different than what we're used to, it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels good. I want to say it again because I want it to sink in. When something is different than what we're used to, it feels uncomfortable during the transition from where you were to where you're going, while you learn to fully embody and hold it.
Sometimes, getting what you want is like scary, and it can scare people away. They kind of back off.
Oh my goodness, is that the truth? We thought we could hold it, but it's like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be different. I was hoping I would still be exactly the same, but just totally better. And so we really have to have this understanding that when we switch this huge flip And you can do it quickly. It doesn't have to be this thing that takes 30 years like some teachers teach. When we make this flip, it's not going to feel easy. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But if you're listening to all the teachers that say it should feel easy, if you're doing it right, it should feel easy, then when it feels uncomfortable, as any major change in frequency will feel, you will say, oops, I must be doing it wrong.
It eventually starts to feel easy once you get used to it, and you're in the flow, then it feels easy. But in the beginning, it's work. You have to go through the work to get to where you're in the flow, and then it's easy.
It's the process of embodiment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So embodiment looks like taking a frequency that you're not used to and becoming one with it. At first, it looks like it might be days or weeks of, I'm in this frequency sometimes, but a lot of the time I'm still in my old frequency. You haven't fully embodied it yet. So it looks sort of like a roller coaster or ups and downs of states where you're in this frequency and it's like, yes, this is easy. I knew it was possible. This is awesome. And then states where you're back to who you were. And it's just the process of embodiment. Nothing's wrong. But I see so many people turn tail and run in the other direction because they think the switch should have fully embodied them like this, instead of understanding that it's a process and divine timing is unfolding. You are energetically being upgraded to hold the version of you that you see as true for you. So if we're doing this, and the question that you asked the other day was such a good question, Phil. And what did you ask about your writing? Do you remember the question?
Oh, I asked, it wasn't coming to me anymore. So I asked, what was it? The idea was, is it because I'm not supposed to be writing it yet? Or is it because I screwed up and that's why I did something wrong and that's why it's not coming to me anymore?
Yeah. So this is such a fantastic question. And it really shows how much you have grown as a soul, because instead of just assuming you screwed up, you now have expanded to hold the question, could it be that divine timing's unfolding here and I simply haven't reached divine timing to hold it? So like just the question itself is like, boom, you have expanded so much. That's incredible. Because if you look at our earlier programming, it was just automatic assumption. If it's not working, it's my fault. I'm not good enough. And that's why. And
what did I do wrong? Like, what should I be doing?
Yeah. How do I fix myself? Right. So what I shared with you was my journey when we started having the conversations with IM in 2011, that I wanted to hold putting a book out there, right? But I couldn't. We had to go on this long journey. It took us 8 years.
You weren't ready for it. Yeah.
No, I wanted it. I could see it, but I couldn't hold it. And that's okay. At the time, I blamed myself a lot. I felt a lot like I wasn't good enough, but the universe was literally energetically upgrading me to hold this. And so 8 years later, I was the person that could hold it. And then the final parts came through to make it happen. And since then, we've been on a 4-year journey here of holding others in a major way. And that wasn't easy because holding others also includes holding people that are in pain, that are in severe fear frequency, right? That are very easily triggered. And that used to be too much for me. And so now I've been on this journey to hold them. And so all the times when I wondered why, our book and now our books are touching so many people so deeply, why can't they be given to the millions of people now that I see them reaching? Because they would change these people's lives. It would be incredible. So why is that not happening yet? And I couldn't see it for years. I saw as more and more people were brought to the books, I could see, okay, this is helping people. It's transforming lives. Our lives have become completely transformed through this. But at the same time, where's the more that I see? Why isn't it here? And it turns out it's all been an inner game. I had to energetically upgrade to hold it. And hold it not in a way. You see a lot of very, very successful people out in the world, a lot, that are holding a crap ton of success, but they're doing it from a place of being burnt out, stressed, and like almost machine-like, right? Because that's the only way they can hold it. And so their relationships suffer, right? And it's just, you see them, they're like, oh, they're proud of the fact that they work 20 hours a day to burn out and then sleep for 4 quick hours, right? Before they get up and go right back into it. And it's like, no, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to suffer and experience misery. We're here to recognize that we deserve to feel good, that we deserve a blessed life. But if we think the only way to get success is through misery, then a lot of us will say, it's not worth it then. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. And others will say, okay, I'll handle it. I'll do it. Just dump it all on me. I can do it. But either way, we're missing the point. And the point is always trying to bring us back to our truth that we have a mission, we have a purpose here on earth, each of us does. But to do it, it's about this inner game of embodying our highest truth. It's not about what X, Y, and Z said they did to be successful. That never works for anybody else in the same exact manner, because all of our life paths are completely unique to us. So while we can take like big chunks of information from other people, we are never going to find our truth by following someone else's thing step by step, right? That's why, like in my programs, Quantum Lightwork Academy, or any program you do with me, I am literally like, I'm getting you started, but if you want to really like blast open your psychic gifts, like really go to the next level. And this is for people that have 0 psychic gifts activated right now, or people that have been deep into their psychic gifts for 20 or 30 years. You must recognize when things are coming through for you that are not exactly what I said to do. And you must trust and you must act on them. So if you're hearing, say this phrase, but it's not what I said, say it. Do the thing that wants to come through you. And this is true if you're a writer, say it. Say the thing that doesn't fit in with what you're writing that you are afraid to say. Do it. Do it.
This is that thing that like really holds a lot of people back, is they look at and a lot of coaches do this to people, this is what worked for me, therefore it must be what works for other people. And they don't have the perception, the clarity to look and see, well, what's going to work for one person is different from everybody else. So it's like they're successful because they found what works for them. And then they assume that's it. That's what works. That's the only thing. And for anybody who wants to be successful, you have to find what works for you. And you can learn from other people and take bits from other people. But in the end, what works for somebody else is not going to be what exactly works for you. You have to find your own way, your own path. And so many people get stuck because they're like, this is what I learned. This is what works. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is how it's supposed to work. And they keep trying over and over again. And they're like, why isn't it working for me? It works for these other people, and the idea really isn't out there very much, that it's like everybody has their own path, everybody has their own way, and what's going to work for you is going to be a little bit different than everybody else, and that's okay. You got to find your fine tuning.
Yeah. And this is one of the big lessons I had to learn over the last 4 years as I've been guided to hold more people. And as I was trying to figure out how I could fix what must be broken. I must be broken some way if things aren't working the way that I see that they're meant to, right?
It's working for other people. Why isn't it working for me? I must be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
When what you're doing wrong is you're trying to do exactly what they're doing.
That's exactly right. So anyway, I had an experience with, many experiences being guided to coaches over the last 4 years. And I've had quite a few. And with every coach at some point in the coaching process, whether it was 3 weeks in or a month and a half in, it was never very long. Would be like, okay, today you say goodbye. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trusting. The first time that was difficult. After that, it was very easy. And some of the coaches, I saw how great they were because they were like, oh, that's so cool. You don't need me anymore. I helped you so much that you trust yourself more and you don't need me anymore. That's awesome. And there were other coaches that were really, really hurt and triggered when I didn't need them anymore, right? But I had an experience early this year where I was guided to 2 very high-level coaches at once. And the one, I was in the mastermind, and the mastermind cost $8,000 for 2 months. And the other one was someone just incredible who has a deep, deep understanding of inner knowing and God within us. And she was $16,000 for 6 weeks. And so I signed up with both coaches because I was guided to it and I had no idea why. And the mastermind, I went to the first call and I was like, ooh, this is not in alignment. The energy in this group is really dirty. And that's not a bad thing. It just means these people aren't energetically aware. They aren't doing the things on a daily basis to clear and cleanse their energy. And so they just have so many layers and it's very, very heavy for someone like me who's done so much energy work. Like it was just unpleasant to be there and I didn't want to be there. But I did ask the question. I had gotten some complaints in the Lightworkers book about mentioning QLA, even though I am told me to, that part of my mission here is to teach light work to the people who know they're ready to receive it on the level that I'm bringing it through, which is a much, much deeper level than it's been brought through in the past by practices like Reiki and things. So my inner knowing was very, very clear. It stays in. But I asked this coach what she thought, and she said, oh, well, I would do this. And she picked one, and I honestly don't remember which way she picked because that's how insignificant that became to me after I interacted with the second coach. But anyway, she picked one and it was based on her life experiences. And she said why, based on her life experiences, I should pick the one that she was recommending. I'm like, okay. I'm like, there was something in me that was like, oh, I just didn't like any of the interactions that I had this first week. And I'm like, okay. So I brought it to the other coach and I'm like, this is what's going on. And the other coach said, did you ask God inside of you? And I said, yes. And she said, what did God say? And I said, leave it in. And she said, then why are you asking me? and I said, oh, thank you. I'm complete now. And I meant it. And I don't need coaches anymore because I thought that coaches had something that I didn't have. They must, right? While we're making very, very good money, we aren't making the money that some of the people out there are making right now, right? And so I felt like, ooh, something must be broken in me. And that was just like, oh, I gave I am such a big energetic hug after that because that was the exact situation that I needed created for me to fully understand what's going on here. And this is in the world of coaching and the world of everything. Either you are taking advice based on what other people think is right for you, or you're listening within to what God's source within you knows is right for you.
You have to listen to yourself. That's the path to success, is learning how to listen to yourself and ignore everything else out there.
Now, at the same time, like, look at our podcast setup here. Okay. If somebody had not put the information on the internet of what we should buy to create this podcast.
That was hard to find.
Right?
Gosh.
So what a blessing that woman created that video and we were led to it. So, because otherwise we would be for the next 6 months still trying to figure out what to buy for this podcast setup.
Yeah.
Right? So when you share what works for you, it is a blessing that you are giving to the world. Okay. And you are allowing other people's paths to become easier. However, when you are receiving what other people are blessing the world with, you must have that inner discernment to say, is this right for me? And if it's a course you've been led to, say a step-by-step course, you have to have the discernment to say, okay, is this step something I'm being led to or not? Because all the time I see this, and I experienced this much earlier on my journey, where I would sign up for a course because I was guided to it. And I was so excited, and I was like, oh, yes, this is it. Fantastic. But on week 1 and 2, okay, I'm rocking it. This is great. I'm doing it. Maybe it's difficult and I'm expanding or whatever. But week 3, oh, I can't do week 3. Okay, I can't force myself to. And it's a feeling of nausea and I cannot force myself to do week 3. And then I think, is something wrong with me? And it took me a while to understand in conversations with IM, oh, there is nothing wrong with you at all. You actually aren't meant to do week 3. Just skip it. No guilt. Don't tell the person running the thing, because they'll think they're not going to get that. It's not their job to get it, and it's not your job to make other people get it. It's your job to trust your own inner discernment. If week 3 is not a match, you leave it and you go to week 4. And then you ask the same thing. Is this what I need? Is it not what I need?
Sometimes we're led to things for different reasons than what we originally thought. And sometimes the lesson that we're going to take is not the lesson that we thought we were there for. And sometimes it's a much more valuable lesson.
Yeah.
It's like when you're led to those 2 coaches, you thought you were going to get business coaching or whatever, and it was an expensive lesson, but IM was sending you to those coaches not for the reason you thought, but so you could be reminded to listen to yourself. Yeah. And then you look at like the price you paid for the lesson, because lessons are expensive.
I feel like it was a bargain.
Yeah. You can have a look and be like, wow, I wasted all that money because I'm not really using their coaching service. Or you can look at it and be like, that was a good investment because that was the best lesson I could possibly learn.
That was the best lesson. And then I think about, if I hadn't trusted there, I would have kept needing coaches to try to deliver this lesson to me for potentially years. But I trusted there where I was led. It unfolded divinely the way it was supposed to. And now I am free. Now I am free. Now I am free. So let's get back to your book and the divine timing.
Okay.
So what's interesting is when you are telling yourself, my book stopped flowing to me because I did something wrong. I missed something. I'm not good enough. I'm not practicing enough, blah, 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 blah. You're basically just halting everything. It's like the world stops until I figure out why I'm not good enough. Right? But when it's a understanding of divine timing, you can open to receive, is there something else I'm being guided to learn on our journey? Like in that 8-year embodiment for us to hold publishing, One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create, we both were led to nursing school. And we didn't know that was part of the embodiment process. But when 2020 hit with the pandemic, we were nurses and we were not fooled. Whereas if we hadn't been nurses, if we hadn't had all of that training and studying, things could have looked very different for us. But we were easily able to accept the guidance that was coming through because it matched our understanding of the world. It was like, oh, yeah, okay, we trust you. Yeah, okay. We're happy to disagree with the majority as we're guided to it, because we've also had the experiences given to us that back that up, right?
Yeah, we actually knew the science,
Yeah.
Whereas most people, they're being fed all this stuff from the media and just buying it when they haven't been to school and they don't know what the actual science is. We were so lucky that we had.
Well, there's also plenty of people that have been to school and at least were exposed to the science, but still have a pretty thick veil over their eyes so that they doubt whatever inner knowing they created by going to school and trust the media more, But So we're led to, and if we trust, we're led to the perfect lessons. So right now, you're in an embodiment period to hold the books. What happened was, just like with One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create, it was this magical time in our lives when it was like, the universe is flowing through us, right? Mm-hmm. God is flowing through us. The birds are singing. Everything is amazing. And that lasted for, we can't remember now how long it lasted.
Months, yeah.
It was probably months, but then it was like, okay, we didn't do then what we were guided to do in the moment, and life came back, and we were living at my parents' house for years with no money, trying different things, trying to figure life out, right? And then finally we were guided to nursing school. And when we were guided to nursing school, we really both went into it like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're supposed to do. We're just going to go full at it, right? And we had the permission to do that because we trusted whatever was going to happen with the book, whether nothing was going to happen, whether it was going to happen eventually. We weren't being called to it right now, and that's the key. Mm-hmm. So we allowed ourselves to trust in the divine timing of our life purpose and say, okay, I'm going to go all in on what I'm being called to in this moment. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're being called to right now. The book isn't flowing through you, but ideas to learn piano and learn drawing, things that you have talked about you wanted to do as a child and weren't given the opportunities to, or even stopped from doing, things that you talk about constantly, you want to do. And I can see clearly that these two things are part of the embodiment process of becoming the person who can hold the book. And even though you're not on the other side of publishing your book or even finished writing it yet, when you are, you will see clearly why you had to embody the piano and embody the drawing. And so if you give yourself permission that you're embodying this book in divine timing, all of a sudden it also gives you permission to be who you are called to be in this moment, which is a student of whatever it is you're being called. In your case, the piano and the drawing, right? Mm-hmm. In my case, for the last 4 years since publishing One Truth, One Law, I've been called to be a student of business, right? Yeah. Because that's how I will spread the message that we are all God, we are all one. That's how I will spread it. And can we be okay with that?
Yeah.
If we can, we'll understand that what we're being called to is actually not as scary as we thought. Because, okay, writing this book right now, I don't know how to do that. That's terrifying, right? That's how you're feeling. Like it's not coming through me. It doesn't want to. But signing up for a drawing class, even though it's a big, scary step, you can hold that right now. Mm-hmm. Signing up for piano lessons, again, big, scary step. But what did you say about the place yesterday about how they start lessons at 5?
Oh, I said, that's probably what I need. Somebody who can teach a 5-year-old.
Exactly. So it's like, even though it's a scary step, you can hold it. It's not too big, too scary. And through holding these smaller steps that you're called to, you're going to become the person who can hold the big thing of the book. But you're only able to do it when you let yourself off the hook and you don't have to be all of it now. Mm-hmm. Right?
Whatever stage you're in right there, you always, I've noticed in the past, I've always been like, well, I want to be to the next step. I want to be the next level or whatever. And what I've learned, looking back, is whatever phase you're in, enjoy it and experience it. And because at some point it's going to end and you're going to look back on it with, like joy, like you'll look back and like how cool that was. And almost kind of like you kind of miss it. Even the things that are really difficult, even things that are really, really tough, when they're over, you look back
proud of yourself.
Yeah. Like even when I went to basic training, when I was going through the training, I hated it. It sucked. It was the worst. I hated it so much. And then once it was over, I looked back on those experiences as some of the best experiences in my life with like so much just enjoyment. Like we'd all just laugh about all the things we went through. So it's like I hated it at the time, and when it was over, I loved it, And it's like, remember that. So like whatever you're going through, appreciate it, and really experience it, because at some point it's going to be over and you'll be on the next step and you'll be looking back on that. Like, did I really fully appreciate it at the time?
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. It's like, can we learn? And it is a relearning or an unlearning of what we've been programmed with our whole lives. Can we learn to appreciate the now moment, appreciate the journey we're on? Because we're being led on this magical journey that, yeah, sometimes feels very difficult, but is full of so many blessings. And like you said, those hard bits are going to be some of the biggest blessings that you look back on and say, wow, I became stronger as I moved through that. Wow, I held something I didn't know that I could hold. So this switch, and it creates such patience in you as well. So this switch from lack frequency.
It's learning to trust, because if you're trusting that you're going to get there, you can appreciate where you are now. But if you're worried you're not going to get there, then you can't appreciate. You're just worried about,
Yeah, 1,000%. So it's like making this flip from, I want this to get there, but I don't know how, to, I'm not there yet, but I know. KNOW, uppercase. I know with every fiber of my being that I will be there in divine timing. Mm-hmm. And so I will be patient and enjoy every step of the journey to getting there. Now, the cool thing about this is you get to avoid all those shiny objects that are telling you, you can have it immediately. Tomorrow, if you just do this today, it'll be here tomorrow. You can avoid all that. That's coming from a place of not trust and, again, lack frequency. And trust, abundance, and worthiness frequency looks like, I'm divinely guided in every moment of every day. And so I trust that all is unfolding divinely for me. I can be patient. I can take deep breaths. I can create space for myself, because the universe is not going to deliver what you want when you are on path until you have space within you to hold it, because it does not want you to be overwhelmed and miserable. It wants you to have this really cool, amazing life.
It's not going to give it to you till you're ready.
Yeah. So I always say to people, do you have a daily practice? Do you have a daily practice? Because you need a daily practice to create space. Without space, you're not going to get the next thing, not in the way that you desire it. You have to have a daily practice that creates space. Another way you can look at this is, are you trying to solve a problem from the place of, I'm fucked if I don't figure this out? Or are you doing something because you are guided to it, because it's part of your path? So if you're trying to make a decision, you can ask yourself, am I doing this from a place of, if I don't do this, I'm going to be fucked? Or am I doing this because it's like, I know I'm guided to this, so I trust? Like, you can flip everything in your life today if you start making decisions from the place of, I know I'm guided to this, so I trust, or I feel that I'm not guided to this, so I trust. Now, let's talk about how many times in the last year you've asked me, Erin, what should I do about X, Y, or Z? And I tell you what I think based on my opinion, right? And then you come to me and say, whether it's a week or a day later, I shouldn't have done what you said. I knew it, but I did what you said anyway. And tell me about that.
Oh, I can't think of any examples, but I know exactly what you're talking about. You have to learn to not go to other people for guidance, trust your own guidance.
What's going on is you've really energetically upgraded. We've been doing it together, and you are at a frequency where the lessons are coming really fast and furious for you. And they're coming for me as well, right? We're just mirrors of each other. We're just the same being mirroring each other and bringing each other lessons and love. And so I am meant to learn through this. And I feel like I have, because now when you bring something to me like this, I'm like, well, what do you think? instead of I just give it back to you now, right? What do you think?
It's like and the first thing a coach should say.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you feel?
Yeah. And so you do this for me as well. And you've been doing this for me for a long time. When I say, hey, Phil, what should I do about this? You're like, what does I am say? I'm like, I wanted you to tell me the answer. I didn't want you to ask me to go to I am. I am's going to tell me to do something I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to take the easy path. The easy path, you guys, is always not listening to your inner self, because you don't have to change and do uncomfortable things that bring in all the miracles and magic. It's much easier to stay where you are than to upgrade into the miracles and the magic, until you get to the miracles and the magic. And then you're like, oh, this is actually much easier, much nicer. It's much easier than things used to be. But yeah, so you were coming from a place where you didn't trust yourself to make your own decisions. And so you had to be led to situations on repeat in a close proximity of time where you asked someone else for their advice on how you should make the decision. You made it from their advice instead of your own inner knowing, which was actually very clear to you. And instantly you were given the feedback of, oopsie daisies, I should have listened to my own inner knowing. It was right.
Yeah.
So that you would no longer be coming from this frequency of lack where you essentially were not trusting your inner self. And so this is happening because of twofold: the energy that's upgrading all of humanity, the entire collective here on Earth right now, and also because of the energies that we have called in. As we call in higher dimensional energy, the lessons come faster and easier and more clearly than they ever have before, because you're no longer an energetic match for that old version of you who did not trust themselves to make decisions. So you had to be shown quickly what the new version of you, how that version of you operates. And now you know. And yeah, it was uncomfortable receiving those lessons, but what a blessing.
It's like, I think that's the most important lesson you can learn in life, is to trust your gut. You know, and that's what all these successful people say is, the people ask them, well, how do you make decisions? How do you know what to do? And they're like, I just trust my gut.
Yeah.
You know, that's really ultimately the path to success. If you can learn one thing, it's that. Like, that's where all my mistakes in life, I now realize, like looking back, realize that's why I made that mistake, is I was listening to somebody else. Yeah. Like, I was being told and I didn't trust that. Mm-hmm. You know, it took so long for me to start to realize that. Mm-hmm. Looking back, like, oh, that, like, why'd that terrible thing happen? Well, I was told to do something I didn't do. Instead, I listened to somebody else. Yeah. That's why it happened.
And I think there's also, because all of our life paths are so unique, whatever psychic gift is most active for us, and we all do have a psychic gift that's active, even if we're not aware that it's a psychic gift. It might just be part of us that we think is normal, like that gut instinct, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually a psychic gift. So we have to understand that not everybody has that gut instinct as their active psychic gift, right? So there are people with all different kinds of psychic gifts. And so what happens so often that I see is somebody that doesn't have that gut instinct gift is listening to the advice of people that have the gut instinct gift. And it's very confusing. It makes them feel like they actually can't operate that way because they haven't activated that gift yet. And so it makes them not trust their inner voice, their inner guidance, because none of it's working, because that's not the gift that they have active. Mm-hmm. So that's really important to understand as well, that you have to, that's again why a daily practice is so important, whether that's a meditation or a light work practice, something that opens up space and trust within you so that you can tune in and get clear on what your intuition is coming through most clearly. Because if you're listening to other people about what your intuition can look like, if they don't have that same psychic gift as you activated, nobody's wrong. Everybody has different things activated when they're not, like, I have pretty much everything activated now, but when you're not consciously calling in that activation, it looks different for everybody. And so nobody's wrong, but we can get really, really lost in a world where no one is wrong. We can get so lost, And so recognizing we need to have that daily practice where we're opening up space and listening within and feeling into what's right for us so that we can start developing that discernment in where we are guided and where we are guided to go and not to go.
You're saying like intuition comes to people differently.
Yeah.
Some people hear it differently. Some people have a gut feeling. Some people
a gut feeling feels like your body is literally pulling you forward or backward. Mm-hmm. Like literally you are being propelled by energy within you that like, this is a yes. Ugh. A no might look like, it might not even be a word. It might be, ugh. A yes might be, and that's it, right? That's often how the gut instinct comes through. And you can see this in little kids who have that psychic gift most activated. They'll be like, That's their intuition. It's incredibly clear. And they will move their bodies and their sacral is actually propelling them forward or backward. So, but then there's so many different psychic gifts, and not everybody has that. Actually, a large portion of the population does have that gut instinct. I don't. That was not my most predominant psychic gift. So that's why I can say, I wrote a blog article on it years ago about how not everyone is meant to trust their gut. And that's, at least in the beginning, we can activate all of these things within us. But understanding you need that space to sit quietly with yourself to start to understand how yours is coming through. All the time. I see people talking about this, or I get comments on my videos. You know, intuition, your guidance doesn't come through as words in your head. You're listening to something bad. That's not true. That's not true. It's a feeling. It's not that. My love, you think God can't speak words in your head? You want to put a limit on God? Mm-hmm. Good luck with that. God will come through in whatever way that you're holding space for and intending. To me, the clearest guidance comes from words in my head because I understand words the most clear. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to set the intention and create that within you. But this is very misleading to people that have received guidance through their head, through words in their head their entire life, to hear experts out there saying, that's not a real thing. You must be listening to something evil. It makes me sad how people don't understand all the ways the universe is constantly trying to come through us, and that none of them is bad or wrong. It makes me really, really sad.
If God really wants to get through to you, he'll find a way, Even it could be like external signs can come to you if you're not listening, like it'll keep trying to get through to you somehow, Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I Am says, I Am is always trying to come through to us. Always. And the more awareness that we have, often we'll start noticing those external signs first, right? Like people will see the repeating numbers. And at first it'll just be a bit coincidence and something they laugh at. But over time, it's like, well, what's going on? And then that will lead them down the rabbit hole of, why am I seeing repeating numbers? What does that mean? But that's just one of the ways. There's so many different ways these things come through to us. For me, the universe started coming through to me through bringing you to me, right? Like when I met you, I didn't believe in God. I was raised atheist. It never even entered in my mind to think that there was a creator or any sort of plan. I thought everything was random and there was no point. And I was pretty much fucked in life. Like I was not going to do much better than I was doing, And so the universe brought you to me, and you did not have all the answers. You weren't religious, but you did believe that there was a creator, and you started to show me the reasons why.
I was seeking. Yeah,
you were seeking. And you started to show me the reasons why you believed there was a creator. And I was like, jaw on the floor. This is really obvious. Yeah, there's a creator. Oh my goodness, everything on planet Earth cannot be a coincidence. Like apparently everything is divinely created, and that cannot be a coincidence.
Yeah, when you open your eyes, it's like really obvious. It's like, how can somebody ever actually think that there's not a creator?
Well, that's how thick programming is.
Yeah.
Especially when it's laced with fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how atheism is laced. It's laced with the fear of when life is over, you're dust. That's it. There's nothing else. And I was so, because that's how I was raised, I was so afraid, starting at 5 or 6 years old, of the idea of death. So atheism is very, very laced with fear. And anything that brings you into the fear vibration, it's hard to come out of that. It is. You have to have a lot of awareness and a lot of inner desire and drive to come out of that fear vibration. It's easier not to. The fear vibration is so, it's like this black glitter, this dark, dense, heavy glitter that tells you lies and whispers to you all these things that aren't true. And it keeps you stuck and miserable. It keeps you away from your purpose here on earth, from the truth, and from all the blessings that are meant for you. So I know for myself, I have to be very conscious of when I have slipped into a pattern of maybe scrolling through the news or something, which I do not recommend at all. 0%, 0 stars to the news.
Well, it's all fear.
And a lot of it's fake as well. Yeah. You can't trust that anything that you're seeing there is not engineered to create certain feelings, thoughts, and programs. So there's that as well. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very conscious of where you direct your attention, because what you focus on expands. And this isn't like a beautiful platitude. What you focus your attention on is what you create more of. What you focus your attention on is what you create more of. So if we can recognize the areas where we're focusing on things that are bringing us down into the fear vibration, and instead choose to move that attention to things that bring us into trust, into higher vibrational spaces, we'll heal a lot within us simply through that switch. Thank you for joining us for our first podcast. I had so much fun.
Me too.
Thank you guys all so very, very much from the bottom of our hearts. We are so grateful that you are joining us on the journey, and we can't wait to speak with you again soon. Sending you all so much love, and thank you to all of the beautiful beings of the highest vibration who have assisted us here today. Thank you to God Source within each and every one of us for guiding us and lighting our paths. Love you all. Thank you for joining us for the We Are All God podcast, with new episodes dropping every Sunday morning. And remember, you are more powerful than you've ever imagined.